Welcome to Through the Corporate Glass, a podcast that explores career choices. We dive into the latest trends in tech careers, demystify industry roles, spotlight startups, and even explore unconventional paths outside the industry. Join us for authentic conversations that will challenge your assumptions and inspire you to think differently. Hi everyone, I'm Ashwini, your host for this episode. If you started your career as a software engineer, do you need to stick to the same track through your career? Could you get into consulting or become a product manager while still being rewarded for your experience as a software engineer? To answer these questions and share her incredible journey, we have with us today Anusha Ganesan. Anusha has been a software developer, technology consultant, product manager, and is currently a cloud engineering manager. I'm sure, like me, you're wondering what prompted her to make these changes and how did she successfully navigate them? Apart from being an incredibly talented person and contributing to all of these diverse roles, her can do attitude has always been a huge inspiration to me. Welcome, Anusha. So glad that you could carve out time for us and make it to this interview.
Hi, Ashwini. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be speaking with you in the podcast.
Awesome. So I'll dive right in and I'm going to start with a flashback. So I'm going to take you back in time and I want to know what thoughts were actually running through your mind on day one of your first job in the industry.
Honestly, it's been a while, but all I remember about my first day of the job is being very excited. And I believe in a lot of way it has met my expectations since I've held my track in this industry, the software industry, for about 15 years now. So, yes, a lot of excitement, a lot of learning, meeting new people, and trust me, it has just evolved and gotten better over time.
So, how did you transition into tech consulting after starting out with software development?
I started out my career as a software engineer. I spent most of my initial years, a good solid 4 years, at Cisco as part of their network management technology group, building out their UI and still learn and worked on a lot of their networking components.
Mhm.
And at some point, I wanted to get a little more exposure towards working with customers and also was going through a life transition at that time. And it all aligned rightly. I did carry over a lot of my software development skills from my software engineering role and getting into technology consulting was a bit of change because the first biggest skill you learn is working directly with customers
Right.
and maybe people with a lot more experience than you. So that was a big shift, and then understanding different industries like utilities, supply chain. The space is just very wide depending on the customer that you work with.
In Cisco, you probably had a role which was fairly insulated from the customer, right? You probably focused on the product. So, did it require a mindset shift, and did you have to actively do something to be able to fit into a consulting role?
I think in my case, it was more like just go in there and figure it out. My
Right.
first consulting role was with Verizon. It was a short term contract, and I also did change a little on the technology that I worked on. I completely went into the Oracle middleware suite at that time, integration, and a lot to do with infrastructure. So I did have the technical background, but I think the first time is just going in and just learning to work with business users and stakeholders at your customer site, just understand what their requirements are, and then going through an entire software development cycle with them. So it does take two, three, maybe more projects, but you get into the groove and you just keep getting better at it. And I did stay on that track for close to a decade. So that was really a good, rewarding journey.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm sure you got a thrill out of it that you conquered a completely new area.
Yes, absolutely. That was the most energizing part of it. And with each customer, you just expand your skill set, you get better, and then just adds to your confidence overall.
I guess for someone who's actually looking to make this transition, would you say it would be more about an open mindset and then just picking up the skills on the go?
Yes, I think to start with, also navigating it carefully, right? It's okay to start small
Yeah.
and expand your scope into that area. So maybe for somebody transitioning from a pure software development role into something which is customer facing, I think initially it's just mastering your soft skills, just learning to work with people and understanding different roles and how you fit in and the expertise that you bring to the table. Kind of aligning on all of that would really make you successful as you transition into a consulting role.
Yeah, that's super helpful to know. So, change is pretty much the constant in everyone's life, and you've had a fair bit of changes to actually deal with in your life. And you've also navigated it, I think, very well. So, could you share one of the changes as an example and talk through how you navigated this?
Okay. Another major career transition I went through was about 5 years back when I actually moved from technology consulting into product management. I know product management was somewhere in the radar, something that I wanted to try out as a career and maybe even evolve from my technology consulting role. And in terms of timing, what really accelerated was also my journey into becoming a mom. So I didn't want to travel as much, but still wanted to stay in the industry and more importantly, staying relevant. And that was also a time where there was a big industry shift from on premise software into cloud computing. So it was in a good timing in terms of moving and picking up a completely newer field into platform as a service, cloud computing, overall supporting SaaS platforms and also a change in the role. So usually with product management, the two aspects. One is inbound product management, where you are working with software engineers, helping define the product roadmap requirements and building out the software. There's outbound software product management, where there's more of sales enablement, go to market, customer advocacy. So I did bring in a lot of skills from the outbound product management aspect. And then on the inbound product management, of course, I've been a software engineer. So it did take some time to get back into the zone of working on the engineering side. But I think eventually, after a few months, it did fall into place.
Wow, that's actually amazing. You made two transitions simultaneously, both into motherhood as well as into a completely new area after being in consulting for 10 years. That's very inspiring. You managed to somehow balance both of these while learning a completely new area. Did you find that challenging? How did you go about it?
Shifting to product management in a lot of ways helped me balance both my role as being a mom and still working full time and picking up a newer technology. and even working in a new role. One of the big reasons is at least the initial years of product management. The way I worked was very different from consulting, where you are in an always on mode. And
Right.
in the initial couple of years with product management, you do have work. And with a larger company, I think the scope of work in terms of the features that you're building are more well defined. So I did have the flexibility to work my own hours and still navigate through the changes. But I did also transition into a more smaller company, going through a lot of changes back in a startup mode. And that's when things started to get a little more busy, but still manageable in a lot of aspects.
Right. I think that's a very nice strategic way of making a career choice. Talking more about your role in this startup, what would you say are the most valuable skills for someone to be an effective product manager in a startup?
My experience of working at a startup, especially as a product manager reporting to the VP of product, was in a lot of ways like a do it yourself MBA. For one, it gives you a 360-degree view of the company. As a product manager in a small company, you're wearing multiple hats. You're working with the engineering team, the support organization, sales, and even delivery organization. And you are also ultimately responsible for the success or failure of the product. So it is a very strategic role in a company where the product is also one of its prime or key areas that they're selling.
Yeah.
It was a definitely very good experience working at a startup and just learning more about an organization rather than just building software.
I just love the way you summarize that do it yourself MBA. That's that's a perfect way of putting it. If someone were to figure out how to pitch themselves for this role and convince the hiring manager that they had the talent, how do you think they should go about it?
I can quote an example of how my interview went while
Perfect.
joining
Yeah.
the startup. Right, so do an assessment of all your skills and talk about how it meets the role. It may not be a one-to-one match, but always do a value selling of what you bring to the table or to the role. So how I went
Yeah.
about it was going overboard on all of my outbound product management skills. That's sales enablement, which you do a lot as part of consulting. Customer advocacy is pretty much your day to day, enabling customers be successful on a new technology, adopt new technology, and go to market. You're either taking a new service to market or a new product to market. So there are a lot of transferable skills over there.
Right.
And one question that I was asked was, how do you differentiate yourself from other candidates? And I think what I really told them was, maybe I can sit in front of your engineers and talk about a whole new world that's out there around how customers actually perceive software and having a knowledge of different industries and also bringing in pre-sales experience into the role. And I think what really clicked was, yes, as a product manager, you should be able to sell your idea within the company, which is, I think, a very key and fundamental skill. I think assessing where you are with all your skills and then trying to pitch that to the new role that you're interviewing for is a good way to go.
Great. So essentially, it would be playing to your strengths. And then I think you identified this perfect niche where you said, the diversity of experience is something which is very valuable in the product scenario. And as you just said, selling the ideas, whether it's within the company or outside, would actually be a similar skill. Wow, those were wonderful pointers, Anusha. Thank you for that. Now, moving on to what you're doing next, you're currently a cloud engineering manager. How were you able to leverage your previous experience in this role, and how did this actually happen in terms of the transition?
Well, I've been in my current role as a cloud engineering manager for about a year. So I got an opportunity to join one of my previous companies, that's Oracle. And the way it happened was Oracle has a huge presence, or it's in a growth phase in Austin. So the opportunities came my way, and I thought it was a good logical transition to make at this point. And I feel it's a sum of all my experience that I'm bringing into this role. I do have the field experience, the consulting experience that is needed for this role. And usually, as a cloud engineering manager, I manage a team of cloud engineers, mostly responsible for building solutions either as part of a pre-sales or post-sales cycle. So definitely, I bring that experience, and I've spent my last few years in product management, building, designing, and maybe even visualizing roadmaps for cloud-based solutions. And that's the technology that I'm working on and helping rolling it out to customers from different industries and backgrounds. So I feel it's just added up experience from all these years into what I'm doing now.
Oh, that's amazing. That's anybody's dream where you can consolidate your experience and then it rolls into this one perfect role. So
Yeah.
that
And
that's actually great.
interestingly, when you're going through the changes, I don't think you really connect the dots, but eventually it does fall into place.
Nice. So yeah, actually that was going to be my question. Was it easy to map your experience in different roles overall in your career progress? Or is this something that fell into place organically next role?
Absolutely not. Change is not easy. And while you're going through the change, and especially if it's something initiated by you, it makes it a little more harder. You feel it's uncertain, but I think it's just persevering and pushing through it till it starts aligning and falling into place.
Has there been some passion that's actually driven all your career decisions? Because, like you said, it wasn't easy, and most of them were self made in some sense, right? The transitions and the choices.
I think one thing that connected all the different roles and various jobs over the past few years or the past 15 to 16 years is understanding what I am truly passionate about, right? So it is definitely software engineering, software development, though I don't do much of it directly now, but I still get involved in architecture, design, and oversee teams that build software. And I love working with customers. That's something I discovered as part of my consulting journey. I think it's just tying technology to solve a business problem. I think that's where the real magic happens. I really like working with customers and, above all, learning new technology and keeping up to date with technology. So I think I've taken these three along with me through all the transitions and maybe even helped along the way.
For someone who's actually embarking on this journey now, or who's midway through it and figuring out how to make choices, do you have any advice?
What I would say is when you want to make a change for whatever reason it is, right? It could be personal, really something you want to do in your career, or it's just more even make a career shift. In some cases, I feel it's just taking that one initial step, even if it is a small step, a baby step, it's go for it. do it, try it out. You're never going to learn what's in store. And also seeking mentors and networking, connecting with people who've been through this journey or who are already working in that field, and just understanding if you would fit there. These are some aspects I would consider or I think would be useful while trying to make changes.
Those are both really excellent points. Many of us actually get stuck right in the first step. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, Anusha. We really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Ashwini.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube or on any podcast platform. Follow us on LinkedIn at Through the Corporate Glass. You can leave us a comment on YouTube or send us feedback via our website, throughthecorporateglass.com. We would love to hear your feedback.